A lot of people don't know in today's day that the very first talk show was
on television.
On television was not Steve Allen, certainly not Jack Parr, and it was not Broadway Open House. If you're a real talk show nerd to know that that was technically the first talk show, it wasn't. The first talk show was hosted by a woman, a Jewish woman by the name of Carmel Myers, and it premiered on a fledgling new network called the American Broadcasting Company, that's ABC. And for the most part, the Carmel Myers show is lost because the only way to record a television show back then was to record a show on a kinescope. And for those who don't know what a kinescope is, it's essentially taking a motion picture camera and filming a television set. It's a little more technical than that, but that's essentially what it is.
Well, today, what with Periscope, we haven't really graduated that far, have we?
No, you're absolutely right. Anyway, Carmel Myers did this television show, and some of the kinescopes that were made were lost. And there is, up until now, no record of any of her kinescopes from that ABC series that are known to survive, until I tell you in your microphone that I have a few of them in my Kinescope film archive that I have been preserving for many years. So not only do I have episodes of the Carmel Myers talk show, a Jewish talk show hostess, the first talk show on network television, but I also have the pilot episode of the Carmel Myers show, which no one has seen before. And it's not just the pilot episode. It is the dress rehearsal for the pilot episode. Never aired. And it's Carmel Myers talking about her silent movie career before she introduces her guest for the evening, which was Richard Rodgers from Rodgers and Hammerstein.
What year was it?
In 1951, I believe. Or 1949. I still have to double check that. However, the Rodgers and Hammerstein estate would be very interested in this kinescope. But I am preserving it because it has not fared well over the years, but I have it. I've chemically treated it, and it is beautifully runnable in a 16 millimeter projector.
What format is a kinescope in?
There are two formats. There's a 16 millimeter format and a 35 millimeter format. There were kinescopes that were photographed on 35 millimeter motion picture film, but the majority of them were shot in 16 millimeter.
And so they're essentially films of television.
Oh my gosh, there are films of television that go back to 1946, I believe.
Poor Chuck McCann complains that there are no kinescopes of his show. Let's have fun.
There is a reason, and Chuck is an old friend of mine. I've known Chuck for many years, and Chuck and I have talked about this, actually. As a matter of fact, I have spoken to not only Chuck, but Sonny Fox has become a friend of mine. I was able to give Sonny Fox a kinescope of one of his shows that he didn't know existed, and I got to meet him in the Valley at his home and show it to him.
I mean, did you stump Sonny?
Oh, oh my gosh, he couldn't believe it. We watched it, and he just kept staring at it, and then looked at me and said, "How did you find this?" And I said, "I'm returning the favor." And he says, "What favor?" I said, "When I was a kid, you and Soupy were my heroes, and for me to give you a little bit something back is tremendous." But Chuck McCann had some kinescopes, but the reason why Chuck's kinescopes don't survive, for the same reason Paul Winchell's kinescopes don't survive, for the same reason most of the first 10 years of The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson don't survive, is because 2-inch videotape cost hundreds of dollars per each reel, but it was guaranteed to be re-recorded on for at least 100 plays. So that's what they did, because back then, a videotape that cost a few $1,000s, which today we think of as, lunch for Madonna, was very expensive back then, so they were re-recorded. However, on certain occasions, when something happened on a show that was particularly exciting to the host, they would make what was called a slave master, which means they would make a copy of that. For instance, in 1968, Don Rickles was on The Tonight Show in New York. You may have seen the sequence where Don Rickles interrupts Johnny Carson while he's getting a geisha massage.
Yes.
Okay. The only reason that survives, and it's only a portion of that show that survives, is because someone said, that's what we have to submit for the Emmy nominations. So it's the Emmy reel that survives of that.
Very, very interesting.